So thank you all for coming. This was my vision for us to kind of have a meeting where all three boards could work together. My name is Kate Greenhouse. I'm on the Board of Ed. Paula King and Joanne Hebert helped me to kind of orchestrate and organize this to coming to fruition. So I'd like you to thank them as well. And then we will go ahead and get started. Paula had a couple words to say as well. So
just a couple housekeeping things. I think everybody saw we've got a sign up going around and take some notes tonight and post like we normally do for meetings. As you know, the acoustics in here are not great, so if you're soft spoken, just try to speak up and remember to project. And like Caitlin said, Caitlin and I have been working behind the scenes, so this is a work in progress, right? We've never done anything like this before. This is great, I love it, but we're asking for patience and grace and understanding. We're gonna come out of here tonight, and we already have a list of things that we're looking at doing differently for next meeting. So if you have any suggestions, let us know, but just be a little understanding that this is organic. It's gonna evolve as we go. So just please be patient with how the process is gonna go tonight and in the future. Does anybody need to sign?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll send that that way. And there's some agendas on the freezer in the front, the agenda. So that's all I have.
okay. So I guess then we'll call the order and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're gonna elect a moderator.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was going to.
Okay, thank you.
That's it, yeah, you just hit record.
She did.
Okay.
Yeah. Taylor goes. So we need to elect moderator. So we had a few people that were asked to attend this meeting. Do you want to nominate?
I would like to nominate Jed Larson, chairman of planning and zoning. I'll second that. Thank you,
I'd like to nominate Bob Hamburger as moderator tonight.
I'll second that.
And then do we want to vote by show of hands or? Okay.
So for a show of hands, who would like Jed Larson as moderator? Okay, can I have somebody count that has a really good view of the room?
It's not that
Please, a show of hands, who would like to have Bob Hamburger as moderator? Okay. You're welcome, Bob. So, Mr. Larson, can you sit at the table, please?
Was it my turn now?
There you go. You're in trouble.
Well, you heard, my name is Jed Larson, I'm the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and certainly happy to try to assist in getting a little bit better working relationship between a couple of different boards here. The couple of ground rules, I think it goes without saying, everybody's going to be cordial and respectful tonight. We are friends, family, neighbors. I always hark back to the cycle of Stephen Covey, to see first and understand, then be understood. So hopefully with that, we do some learning tonight and understand better what the people's concerns are on other words that we're working with. I was looking to have each spokesperson for each of the different groups tonight speak from the podium for about 5 minutes. After that's done, the other people on that particular commission, if they got something that they want to add, you have to. can take about a minute to, add whatever they feel, they need to amplify on what's already said there. So we'll go through all the different rules that are on the agenda tonight in order. And, we won't do questions until we get to the end of all the rules and responsibilities. At that point, we'll rotate through the different boards. And, if somebody's got a question, we've got 30 seconds to, raise their question. We'll get a 30-second response. And, we'll alternate through the different boards until everybody's had a chance to ask the question. At that point, we'll have a discussion on, the defining of the capital improvement, that sort of thing. And I think that's all the rules that we come up with for tonight. I think that's all. Any questions before we start? Okay, so with that in mind, the spokesperson for the Board of Selectmen.
Sorry to interrupt, we just need comments from the public.
Okay, at this point, we'll do comments from the public, and normally the opening comments from the public are on items that are not on the agenda for tonight. We'll have public comment again when we get done, and we'll go through hearing comments from the public on what they heard tonight, what we'd like to hear. So, does anybody in the public have a comment that's not associated with tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I guess then we'll take to the Board of Selectmen also.
We don't have changes or additions to the agenda.
Oh. Any changes or additions to
I
the
would think
agenda?
that.
I want to propose to make a motion to, change the agenda and remove the, item 6, role of town treasurer.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
I would like to have some discussion, if I could do that.
Okay,
Thank you. So I just have a few points I wanted to go over, in regards to the motion I just made. So because this is the very first meeting of all 3 boards, I think our time tonight should be spent discussing the role and the responsibilities of each of the 3 boards. These roles and responsibilities need to be clearly defined before I think we extend the scope of our discussions. If we were to discuss the role of the town treasurer, we should also be discussing the role of the school finance manager. However, neither is relevant to the purpose of tonight's meeting. The town treasurer is a town employee who has no oversight of board of education. In the same way, the school finance manager has no oversight of the town. Therefore, the town develops its policies to define the town treasurer role, while the Board of Education develops policies to define the role of the school finance. As such, the discussion of the role of the town treasurer is not pertinent to this meeting. I would now like to reference the auditor's review of the 2022 fiscal year. In that, the auditor raised concerns about the town bank reconciliation, to which the town administrator, Mr. Anderson, responded to in a June 30th, 2023 letter to the Office of Policy and Management, referred to as OPM. Please note that the auditor found no issues with how the school's finances were conducted, and only found problems with how the town improperly reconciled with the school's accounts. So in this letter, Mr. Anderson explained the town's corrective action plan to address the issues noted by the auditor in the town's financial reporting. And I just want to go ahead and highlight a few of those. I think Dr. Dumas.
I would like to make it short, or else we will have no time to hear from the boards.
Understood. So, what I will be referring to is that audit finding corrective action plan that is dated June 30th, 2023. And I know we do have some handouts to provide to you as we go through that. So as that's coming around, where I wanted to start was on the bottom of page 2. So on this handout, on the bottom of page 2, there's a highlighted portion. Mr. Anderson notes that the Board of Education has had a separate bank account since July 2022, such that, and I quote directly from the letter, that the town will no longer be responsible for the reconciling Board of Education activity, which will eliminate the need to report about Board of Education activity with the town general ledger. That farther goes on to state that the town and the Board of Education will now reconcile their accounts independently and provide the information directly to the auditor. Mr. Anderson also agrees to the independent reporting to the auditor, and the completion date is noted for the town's corrective action in this regard on page 3 of the handout, which is August 1st, 2023. Similarly, if you flip over to page 1, at the bottom it states that the student visitors are
This is just a great, appreciate it. Please, there's an agenda here, we have our meeting. I'll actually respond to you tomorrow, because whatever you're reporting here.
with all due respect, I just want to make sure I can finish my case, and then if I can finish my case, then we can have discussion on
How much longer do you need?
I have, this piece here, so I have a half page, and then, under this piece. I'm gonna go through a couple more items on this letter, and then wrap up with my last one. So please ask for the time to be able to do so. I think it's perfect in support of this.
You get 2 more minutes because you've already taken as much time to give each spokesperson for each commission.
Sure, thank you for that, appreciate it. So on the bottom of page 1, it states that the school district office will now be responsible for reconciling the Board of Education account for the general ledger on a monthly basis. Because the Board of Education has its own bank account for the auditor and OPM, the Board of Education must be responsible for reconciling its own accounts, and the town will be responsible for their own. It is telling that Mr. Anderson even separated the discussion of this corrective action into 2 distinct paragraphs. The first discussing the town and treasurer, and the second discussing the responsibility of the school finance. Final point to this letter, as highlighted in the middle of page 2, quoting, beginning with the fiscal year 2023, the school business office will be responsible for closing all Board of Education funds. The school business office will formally adopt procedures in connection to the fiscal year 2023 closing process. So, in conclusion, I want to make it clear that per the town administrator, Mr. Anderson, owns correction action plan, office policy management, the state of Connecticut, and the auditor. All of them clearly create an understanding that the Board of Education is independent and it's beholden to the auditor directly. And just one final point, in regards to the town charter for the chapter 8, finance and taxation section of the town charter, sections 805, 806, and 807, make it clear that the Board of Education is specifically excluded from the town supplemental appropriation expenditures and accounting and purchasing policies. So yeah, I want to thank you for allowing me the time to speak. And again, I just want to reinforce the motion I did make prior to my speaking. So thank you.
Any other discussion, Paul?
Just 2 things. I appreciate the time that you took to share that. So we shared the agenda with all 3 boards ahead of time. And I'm just surprised that this motion is put on the floor. I'm just looking at this document now, so I don't even know how to respond. And we had a packet that we share usually with the public. So let's maybe think about for our next meeting, if we want to share in the public, with the public, all the information that's handed out at the meeting, I think that would be very helpful, so that if something's handed out on the dime, I don't have time to look at this right now and to internalize this, and we have to vote about this immediately. So can we just maybe think about our next meeting to look at the agenda ahead of time, and maybe let's talk about if we're concerned with something on the agenda, and let's talk about that. And then please submit anything that you want to talk about that night in the meeting to be included in the packet. So just want to say.
Yes, so, I'll say for my behalf, I didn't get anything from the town, sort of what they were intending to put forward until about 2 days ago. And I haven't really had the opportunity to look at it yet. So when I saw that, just reading it really briefly, and saw what the town was gonna present, and then looked at the agenda and saw the town treasurer there, I thought it was important that we just limit it to what, you know, I know it's gonna be an hour, the three boards want to discuss. And I think taking it afield with the town treasurer, we don't have a finance manager here, just really money supplier. So, thank you. And we do have copies of handouts if the public wants.
Yeah.
Mr. Becker, now I'll go to the whole board. I'm really, this is a comment, this is a collegial meeting. This has no effect on anything that we get done. We're not gonna vote and get something accomplished here today. It is just to understand what the roles are for all of the organizations. What you're missing, what you're really missing is the treasurer is not just the treasurer for the town entity, but the treasurer has a role and responsibility related to reporting all of the information from the school and wrapping it into a financial statement that's presented. So the only thing, the only reason we would want to talk about the treasurer is to get an understanding of what information should the Board of Education, and not make any final determination, but let your board go back and understand what information your board is responsible for providing the treasurer so that she can prepare a plan. So we could get into the weeds, we could have our lawyers go out and have a negative meeting, or we can just talk about what responsibilities are. And if you don't want to talk about what responsibilities are, then you shouldn't go down the meeting. It's good that our parents, but in that my opinion.
Sure, and again, I just want to be clear that that.
Or you do that.
Well, sorry, I apologize. Sorry.
I echo what Jeff says too, right from the get-go, when I was feeling good walking in. I don't mind hearing opinions and getting information presented to us, but it just put me back right away. And I'm all about education too, in this setting with education. And like Jeff said, I wanted to just, not to make a decision on who should do what, or the treasurer needs to be involved more with the Board of Ed, but I like to learn. If I'm an elected member of the Board of Finance, I just wanted to hear a 5-minute, synopsis of the role. It just would have been helpful to me. I think, when we were just learning about roles, responsibilities, I spent time putting something together. That was for our first meeting, getting together too. So now I feel like I'm back on my heels, even though I was really looking forward to this. I just have a different feeling, and I'm gonna get over it and listen and learn, but that's.
Thank you, Ann. Any? Yes, Steve.
I would push a vote on what he's asking for, because I as well feel the same way. We spent a lot of time and energy putting this meeting together, and now I feel incredibly frustrated sitting here and it's ruining my mood for this. So I'm going to vote on this motion as submitted and move on, please.
Ian?
Can I just ask that you as a moderator clarify who's a voting member? Because before we were voting, counting everybody in the room, and I suspect your intent is to
The
only.
intent would be we vote after the 3 commissioners that are here. 3 boards. And with that, any other discussion before we vote and get on the road? Oh, yes, Dennis.
Yeah, I'd like to throw something in about this meeting and its nature. This is a kind of an unusual meeting. It's not a town meeting, it's not a formal meeting. It was apparently, it comes from the section 407 of the charter, which allows the town administrator to pull together the boards of the town to discuss things. And, I don't think any action can be taken. I think if Jeff Ward suggested final action, that would be, legally, effective. But I too had the same impression that, I live in Andover, as an outsider, that this meeting was, just discuss and to, clarify the way we, I would say the 3 major boards. Sorry, I don't consider PDC quite on that level, but in cases that come before you, you have a lot of power. Just like when I was doing the book, I had a lot of power, very limited by certain sphere. But anyway, I think this meeting is, it's really informal. It wasn't noticed at a town meeting. It wasn't noticed by any of the boards. And sometimes boards in other towns I've been in will notice the meeting and invite the other boards to come. Didn't happen that way either. So,
It did.
yeah, is it, whose meeting is it?
Okay. Let's, listen.
Okay.
We get the flag and ticket,
Okay.
All right, I would ask, unless somebody's got something really important that we haven't heard already to say. I don't see that. Yes.
Is it possible just to talk about this, the town of treasurer next meeting, since we're gonna have another meeting, just focus on the board of self and board of education, board of finance.
We spoke, I think, about the outside.
Yeah.
So for that to be good, I thought.
No. The motion on the floor is approved. The discussion of the role of the town treasurer on the agenda. All in favor, in the people voting are the Board of Selectmen, Board of Education, and the Board of Finance members. All in favor of the motion is presented, raise your hand. Five. All opposed? Okay, so the motion fails, the agenda remains as presented.
Just for, there were 5 in favor and any opposed, did you count?
I did not count.
Okay.
I spoke.
Okay, now, I was.
No, stated.
You're
So, okay.
It was one of the,
I'll count it up, thank you very much.
okay, now we'll move to the Board of Selectmen. Roles and responsibilities. Thank you, guys. I'd ask you to go over the podium so we can. Speakers smiling, please.
Well, I would have been smiling a lot more, before that vote. Listen, the Board of Selectmen is the overseeing body of the town. And the town is represented by the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen has specific responsibilities. It presents a budget to the Board of Finance, which the Board of Finance approves or rejects, makes adjustments. And it's an overseeing body. My whole goal with this meeting, and I had hoped, I'd asked Jerry about this a long time ago, is that we just have a collegial meeting and understand in a common sense way what we have the authority to do and what the Board of Selectmen, I'll speak for, and what we don't have the authority to do. So in my case, it comes down to attorneys. I'm not going to give you the statutorial issues that relate to my board, but I am going to tell you that I know enough that our board will be responsible to the town and to the residents. And the Board of Education is responsible to educate the children, but the Board of Education is another agency and another body of the town. And it is a body of the town. Listen, if Mr. Mooney wants to correct me, I'll let him do it later. But we're all part of the town. We don't have the ability to tell the Board of Education how to spend money. We don't have the ability to tell the Board of Education to move their monies from budget line to budget line. We don't have the ability as a Board of Selectmen to close the school. It's not within our purview. But please understand that this is common sense. When we get to talk about the treasurer, which is the most important item on this agenda to me, right, is the role of the treasurer. What the treasurer, regardless of who it is, what governs that person. It's in our charter what the treasurer can do. It's in state statute what the treasurer can do. And we're not asking, I mean, this is where I feel there's been a negativity coming from the Board of Education to the Board of Selectmen, that we want to tell you how to spend your money or that we're concerned that you're spending it incorrectly. No. All we're asking for is that the information as the financial statements are presented accurately and with all the information. So we get all the findings off of our board. off of our audit. That's what we're asking for. And the only way we'll do that is if we work together. If we do not work together, we're gonna come to these meetings and we're gonna be fighting over silly things that we don't need to fight over. So roles of the Board of Selectmen, I will let Attorney O'Brien sit there and address it. If you want it in a statutory manner, I will allow him to do that. Because I think I'm done with my 5 minutes, Jed. Is that okay?
Oh, your head is good.
Head is good. 2 minutes. So Attorney O'Brien, if you would like to tell the individual within this room the true statutory issues that the Board of Selectmen is on.
You're the executive authority of the town, or is what means the executive authority. It's not a town council, it's not, does not have many legislative powers. The charter gives the Board of Selectmen some legislative powers for, I think, what they call minor ordinances. But essentially, the legislative power lies mostly with the, I'd say, the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance doing the budget, that's an administrative function also. And of course, with the voters at town meeting. So they are the executive board, they run town on a day-to-day basis. And this gentleman is their aide, the town minister. Okay, and that's what, you know, they're like, you know, the president or the governor, their executive.
Well, one thing I did want to say, and I wanted to direct it to the Board of Education. I don't work for Eric. Eric works for the Board of Selectmen. Valerie, you don't work for Valerie. Valerie is our employee. We are responsible for her actions. Your board is responsible for her actions. We are responsible for her actions. And I just want everybody to understand that, because that I don't necessarily know comes across in everything that we do and how we communicate between our boards. He does not, he works for us. She works for you. And if we're all aware of that, and we're clear on that, when we're making decisions, it will be very helpful.
Scott, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah.
Paula? Yeah? Okay, next up on the agenda is the town treasurer.
She's not here. We did not invite her. We did not want to invite the town treasurer to come and speak. That was not our goal. If you understand, this is just to understand the role of the treasurer. The role of the treasurer is to accumulate financial data for the town, prepare financial statements. There are requests that have been made in various documents that the treasurer has asked to sit there and obtain documentation from the school, from the Board of Education, that has not been made available to her because there is a belief that those documents do not need to be provided. And what I am saying in a common sense way, that if the treasurer is looking for a reconciliation that has been performed by the Board of Education, it is within her right, within her role to get that information. And all I'm asking is that you, as a board, agree to provide the reasonable request of information that the treasurer is. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not asking you to have her decide whether you spent the money correctly, whether you're moving money to the right spot or not moving money to the right spot. Her request is to get information. Please. We talk about transparency all the time, and I know you guys have disliked our request for transparency, but that is what the treasurer's role is. In very common sense.
Thank you, Doug.
Now let's change it. I didn't take 5 minutes. Okay.
Very good. Board of Education?
So now, I think Board of Education just to respond. We have like whatever.
What we're gonna do.
Okay. I'll put it in later. Thank you.
Member speaking.
Jerry,
My turn.
it's your turn, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brought this big heavy blue book for a reason. The role of the Board of Education is very clear.
and our roles and responsibilities are derived from the state of Connecticut. These are clear rules, are not open to interpretation, cannot be changed unless the state of Connecticut, state legislature, and the governor change them. Our roles as the Board of Education are to hire. Our superintendent, Valerie, is in that role right now. She is our CEO, and she provides the leadership for the school district. We develop our budget and oversee its implementation. Collective bargaining with the unions and non-union employees about their contracts and employment. Review and adopt all Board of Education policies. Create and clarify the goals of the school district and the mission for the Andover Elementary School and the Board of Education. And we engage with the Andover community. Based upon recent interactions, I believe that all three boards would benefit from a more detailed description about what is and what is not a role or responsibility of the Board of Education. So I invited the two experts to share their wisdom with all of us. There's Board of Education attorney Tom Mooney. His name's on the big book, from Shipman and Goodwin, and Nick Caruso from the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. Attorney Mooney literally wrote the book about Connecticut school law and has been practicing school law for more than 4 decades. Nick Caruso has trained and worked with almost every Board of Education in the state of Connecticut to help Board of Educations understand their roles, best practices for Board of Education members, and how to run Board of Education meetings. I very much appreciate their being with us tonight for them to share their words of wisdom with us. Okay, you guys are on.
Good evening. My name is Tom Mooney, and I appreciate the opportunity to make some brief remarks to you. I did have an opportunity to read the packet that preceded this meeting, and I'm just like, I just showed up. You've been living with each other. You've been having your agreements and your disagreements, but I just wanted to say that as I read the packet, I think that the areas of agreement are far greater than any areas of disagreement. And I think it's really any disagreements you have are more in the details. I think that, and I hope that through this is a wonderful opportunity for you people giving of your time to your community to talk together. Just a couple quick comments on boards of education. Boards have a dual status. And that's led to litigation. It's not a simple matter. Sometimes, well, what does that mean? But I understand that the concept that the Board of Ed is an agency of the town has caused some consternation. The Board of Ed is an agency of the town. The board has dual status. The board is here to serve the community, elected through the charter, to oversee education here. And in reading the packet, I saw important agreements that the Board of Education's right to expend its appropriation in its discretion is not disputed. The town appropriates to the Board of Education. And back to the dual status. I've said that the board serves as an agent of the town, but that the statutes, and no other town agency has an entire title of the general statutes devoted to it. And the Board of Ed serves an important state responsibility to implement the educational interests of the state, to fulfill the state's constitutional responsibility for educating children. And so in that state role, that's why the Board of Ed has discretion, independent discretion over expending its operating funds. One of the tough issues, and sorry to say that I was around with the New Haven case, which is one of the issues about capital budgets and operating budgets, and I was peripherally involved in that case. Capital budgets are one of the more, it's just not totally clear. And I'll say this, the town owns the property and the town has an important responsibility on capital projects, because what you do with a capital asset can affect future obligations. You know, so the town has a vital interest, but the Board of Education has care and control of property used for school purposes. And I think that there was also agreement that maintenance. I thought my time was up. Okay.
You could have any of my extra time on here.
But the Board of Education has care and control of property dedicated to use for school purposes, and I don't think that's in dispute either. So this is the area of Board of Education operation where cooperation is essential. Neither side can control the situation when it comes to capital expenditures and capital the asset and how you maintain it. But the Board of Ed has that responsibility for maintenance. And then the town owns the property. And so when you talk about investing in that property, the town has the interest in doing that, but the town can't like take control of the school building to make a capital improvement. That is a collaborative effort under the statute. This is an area of the law, and I appreciate the kind words. I have been doing this for 46 years. This is an area of the law where one of the critical statutes is 10-241. It's a mess. The same statute says that school districts build buildings, equip buildings, hire superintendents, create libraries, and there's no clear delineation in that statute as to what a school district's authority is between responsibilities allocated to the Board of Education and responsibilities allocated to the town. The same statute, and so the town, Connecticut Supreme Court in the New Haven case tried to wrestle through that and try and figure it out, and they came up with the holding that capital budgets are not the same as operating budgets. And although the board has the absolute discretion to expend its operating budget, the capital budget is a shared responsibility, and it can't be unilaterally implemented by the Board of Education or by the I was having fun. Or by the town. But that is, I've said my essential piece. If there are any questions.
He is most valuable person.
Yeah.
Well, that's, you're right.
Well, it's lost. Because information is important. The reason why we're here is to get an understanding of what.
They didn't want to be unfair.
Please.
Well, I have much more to say, and I do want to again say that I hope this is the beginning of a collaborative discussion, because you are all giving of your time to serve your community. So let's focus on what you all want to do, which is educate the children. And so I have just a couple of comments on the town treasurer. The town treasurer's role here is mechanical relative to the operating budget. But the town treasurer does have and I didn't hear anyone saying the town treasurer is going to say, oh, you can't buy that textbook. That's a Board of Education responsibility. The town treasurer has no oversight responsibility, but the town treasurer does have an accountability responsibility. The town treasurer pays the appropriation out on accounts drawn by the Board of Education within the limits of that annual appropriation. But to the extent that the town treasurer, and now I don't want to get into the weeds, and I'm not drawing any conclusions because I don't know about the details. I would just say this, that the reporting issues are a bit triggering for boards of ed, because it's like, hey, you know, we're the Board of Ed, but every document that the town treasurer may want to see is accessible under the Freedom of Information Act anyway. So you would I think just want to, I wrote down, reasonable requests. Well, let's hope they're reasonable. And if you think they're not reasonable, I think that's a conversation. Because, all of these documents are accessible. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I do want to thank you for the opportunity to just lay out my view of how these three bodies work together in accordance with the statutes.
I'd like to address the questions after we get through the goal. We have said that there will certainly be plenty of opportunity to ask you questions at that point.
I just would like to say thank you to Tom for taking the time to be with us tonight. And giving us a feeling that we are all residents and neighbors of the same town.
I'm Jillian Heber, and I'm the Board of Finance Vice Chairperson. Mark Brinker couldn't be present tonight, so I'm going to do my best just to give a general overview. I had asked to be moved to the bottom so that I could watch everyone else. Now I wish I was at the top, because that was a great bringing us back together, and we really appreciate that. That is the purpose of why we're here, and I have met you in meetings before and sat in towns that I work as well. So mine is, like I said, more basic. Andover's Board of Finance is an elected board consisting of 7 members that each serve an overlapping 4-year term. The Board of Finance is tasked as the financial oversight agency for the town of Andover. We follow the rules and regulations set forth in the town charter and the state of Connecticut general statutes as they pertain to the Board of Finance. We are able to set and establish financial and fiscal policies for the town, then oversee them and revise them as we see needed. We also try to be a collaborative board, often inviting other town stakeholders to appear at our meetings, which happen once a month, to present to us and maybe, I don't want to go off task, I should just read, to present to us things that will be needed at that time or in the future. We receive financial updates from the town treasurer in the form of monthly expenditure reports and the check register. It's at these meetings that we're able to talk and ask questions, receive information regarding anything that isn't going according to our original plan, or additional funding may be needed so we can better meet the needs of the town. We also have the responsibility at the end of the year that we are able to change and transfer line items if funds are available in other accounts. During our busy budget season, we are heavily involved in that preparation. We hold multiple meetings and compile budget documents discussing and assessing the needs of the town at the present time and going forward. We do have the right to request financial data and backup information, follow-up information from any department in the town as part of our process. We will then bring forth a recommended budget at the annual town budget meeting to the town. After the budget is voted on, it is also a duty and a role of the Board of Finance to set the mill rate for the town. This is a really small snapshot of the Board of Finance roles. I open it up to our town attorney to add anything that he feels I could have left out. Thank you.
At this point, Dennis, you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, I thought that was very good. I think I just wanted to have one thing, the general statute do provide that each town agency, such as the Board of Ed, which is a town agency, must report and make its records available to the Board of Finance, and the Board of Finance may fulfill its basic responsibilities. So that is, as Tom said, that stuff is acceptable under the FOI. We don't want statutory FOI. So it is required. The board, I'm not particularly fond of boards of finance in some of the towns that I've been in, including my own. Before, I'd rather see that function done in a different way by the mayor council form of government, or the mayor town management council form of government. Depends on the town. This is a smaller town. Most smaller towns in the town knows that They have boards of finance. Okay, you have board of finance, board of finance has a lot of power. When I think of the board of finance and the board of selectmen, I think of that as town government with some input from town meeting, which has the legislative power. When we talk about town government, it is the town government, board of selectmen, the executive, board of finance, which has some executives, some administrators, some legislative power. But very powerful, we should see, in a town that has one, and, it has to fulfill its function of, providing, taxing, providing budgets and taxing for the town, and making sure that the town agencies can fund it. And one thing I want to say about the Board of Education, Tom, as far as I call it, an agency of the town, but first among equals by a long shot. Because of the, the important functions it has under the Constitution and the state statutes. It gets all those, opportunities for self-government that you mentioned.
Okay, thank you. I recognize that I forgot after we had the pleasure of listening to Tom Mooney to go back to the other Board of Education members and see if there's anything. But at this point, I'm going to go around the Board of Finance first, and then we'll finish up asking if any of the other Board of Education members that want their minutes. Roger?
Perfectly okay.
Okay. Bill? Okay, Shannon, did you have anything you wanted to add to what we heard from the Board of Education?
I think the only, I agree with the attorney that the devil's in the details. And I think
I didn't hear that.
that the devil's in the details. Apparently, it's all yet.
I know, it's the acoustics.
Yeah, I know. And I think that the rub is exactly what has been put out here. It's exactly, are we a town agency, and if so, how much authority does the Board of Selectmen in the town have over the Board of Education, for lack of a better term? And therefore, how, and it came back to what Julie Moody said, trying to provide documents, we have to do that. It's the reasonableness of the request. How many documents do we need to provide? And also my understanding from the auditor was that the recommendation was that we give all the documentation directly to the auditor, that it no longer be reconciled by the town treasurer, but if that's a mistake, then we'll clarify that. Okay.
Right? What?
I'm awesome.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Oh, yes. You went off this was great.
I'm all set.
Okay, thanks. So at that point, that includes the initial discussions of the roles and responsibilities. At this point, I'll try and keep things mixed up with the different boards, and we'll go around and see if there's any other questions that we would like to ask any of the boards at this point in an effort to better understand. So I'll start with Scott. Robert? Celeste?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Just your chance to have a question. Yes, I.
I don't have anything.
Paula? And sorry, I don't know your name now.
Linda.
Linda, okay. Any questions? Right? Jeff?
I would just like to say one thing, is when we move forward here on item number 9, then maybe we can get a couple of minutes by each board on what they feel capital improvement is, so we can open up the discussion.
I would like to give everybody a chance to ask a question at this point.
Okay, well, that's the question.
Yeah, that's what we talked about when we started, but I try to keep it detailed.
Okay.
Anyone?
I have a question. I think it's for the attorney, because I feel like you guys being here is the most valuable knowledge that any of us can gain. So I guess my question for you guys are, does anywhere stipulate how often the reporting from the Board of Ed to the town treasurer needs to happen or needs to take place? And, is there a way to unmuddy the waters between this Board of Ed being an agency of the town and an agency of the state? Because you guys have both talked about it, but I'm still super confused as to what that actually means.
Yeah, in terms of the dual status.
Yeah.
I must say, I spent all my time representing the Board of Ed, so when I hear about the Board of Selectmen directing the work of the Board of Ed, I bristle that because but I'm not hearing the Board of Selectmen saying that they wish to do that. The dual status is reflected in the statutes. When it comes to the physical plant, you're married, you have to work together. And there's no.
Can you say that one more time, please, louder? Correct.
Right. Yeah, right. You're on capital stuff, you are together. You have to work together because you control the property. The property by statute is the care and maintenance and operation of property dedicated to school use is solely within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. But the town has an absolutely legitimate concern about the physical plan because the town ultimately is going to have to pay. So if, for example, you want to put, this comes up sometimes, you want to put solar panels up on the school roof. And that's great, but you can't do that without the town's agreement because the school buildings are the towns. And when you put solar panels on somebody's roof, that creates future obligations, whether it's to repair the leaky roof or to repair the solar panel. So that's an example of where they have to work together. But I would say that the Board of Education, as you educate the children, have extensive discretion within your appropriation. And I would be perhaps better able to offer something constructive. If I heard about a way in which the town is asserting control. I heard this, this documentation of the report to the treasurer. That's something, and that may be the devil's in details. But as I read the material, I don't hear the town saying that it wishes to second guess board decisions on the operating budget. Perhaps a point of contention is school property. And I'd be happy to hear from the town on that, but school property in several different respects is acknowledged under state law as within the Board of Education, the term jurisdiction. If you want to, the school, if you want to open it up to community groups, that's by statute the Board of Education responsibility. I think the real rub is the capital piece and the investment in the property. But how if I answer any other questions.
Dennis, do you want to respond at all?
No, I don't have anything to add to that. I think that's accurate. I think the question of what is the capital budget and what is not depends on a lot of different factors. But Tom is right, and as usual, not as always. But but anyway, Tom happens to be the town attorney in my time. I mean, the Board of Education attorney has been for a long time. I learned about the relationship. Oh, I told them I'm going too long. All right, I agree with Tom.
So the last person
We got a great story.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make sure that I go in order so that everybody gets right opportunity to question here.
I did have two questions. I think you
Right.
Well, no, I asked too, but.
Yeah,
really-
And what was the other?
Is there anything that stipulates how often the Board of Education has to, give reports to the town treasurer?
There's nothing in state statute of which I'm aware of. Attorney O'Brien is much more conversant in Title VII. And so there should be something there. Sometimes the reporting requirements are in charter. And charter provisions are binding on the Board of Education. And this is another opportunity to argue about something. It's important that unless the charter provision is inconsistent with state statute or inimical to the efficient operation of the district. So this is why it's better to work together and look at the latest reports to figure this out.
That phrase you just gave is one that is firmly in my mind. If we can't do anything that's inimical to the basic function of the Board of Education and the Education Department to educate the children in the town. That comes up in case law, correct?
Yes.
But it doesn't define what that would be.
These cases are basically decided on the facts. The facts are different in every case. You know, sometimes the courts decide situations that can be repeated, sometimes they don't. Anyway, as far as that question about how often the reporting has to be done.
Well, you have done earlier,
Okay, so this policy on financial reporting at the end of the school year closing out this policy being effective May 1, 2023 should be in fact a modified revoke.
you gotta speak loud.
All right,
Forward, sorry.
May 1, that's right, May 1, 2023 policy effective date, monthly reporting on or before the 5th day of each month, following documents supplied to the town treasurer and treasurer and chief general board, as well as the town administrator system. 1, check register for the previous 30 days of all the town checks that the town updated. 2, check register for the previous 30 days of all BOE checking accounts. Bank statements of all the town bank accounts, bank statements of all the BOE bank accounts. List of all state grant payments received by BOE previous month. Reconciliation of all BOE accounts with a 1-month delay. In other words, on November 5th, there would need to be a reconciliation filed for first. No later than 15th of each month.
More the details, what I heard was 1 month.
Yeah.
And I think this one, I was something, that's it. So I was gonna put 1 that's 5 months. I just want to make the statement that the Board of Finance never actually improved that.
There for a long time. Eric, you got the floor?
Well, that's a policy recommendation that was never really done. Right, and that's fair and very important to me. We've been kicking that around, I guess, very quickly, because you follow,
Okay.
but we haven't passed it. Good.
There's nothing in the statute that specifies how often reporting it. That's my answer. So, if you flesh out
That's too much, that we should talk about.
In a collaborative, yeah.
Here they.
No.
Jen, your turn for question. She okay? That's not. Joanne?
All I was gonna say was that it could be worked out, like I like that, what we were bringing to the table, if that is too much, I don't know with the work, you know, the people available, like asking the Board of Ed's finance person, versus the town finance person, how often they need the reporting, so. But that's, those are the details.
Well, I read a lot of stuff that said the requirement was annual. I don't think there's anything that precludes us from doing it more frequently than that.
Well, I think it should be, and I think we would want it, but maybe once, if, you know, I think it's something to work on. Also, when I was the grants accountant in the town of Manchester, I was always on the phone with the town person. So I was a Board of Ed employee. I had no problem calling into the town financial person, Maddie, who was there for the longest time, and then went to the town call center, who needed to report all kinds of things. So it is a necessary thing for happening towns, big towns. We're such a little town, so it, you know, the last 15 years have been interesting.
Jerry, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Look at number 9, the number 10, discussion. Finding the capital improvement. 10 AES capital improvement account. It's great, we have these accounts. And is there capital to share the responsibility for the, whatever the capital project is, with the board's level? And this account. Where does the money come from? Going to the account? That's my question.
Is there somebody that you would like to address that question to? I know it's not a big.
Taxpayers.
It's voted on the budget here.
It needs to be put in the budget. Who should be putting it in the budget? How much? How much?
Is the question on capital expense?
The capital improvement.
I would ask that we hold that question for the discussion when we get there in a minute. Because Bill, I see you're the last person that hasn't had a chance to ask the question.
So I'm not sure if it's a question or it's just kind of clarification, but I think clearly the town is only asking for, at least the treasurer, for audit purposes. For reporting, not trying to control in any way what they, how they spend the money. And so clearly the state statutes and our contractors say that they have to provide that reporting to the town treasurer. That's just in the law, it's in the state law, it's in our bylaws. So I don't understand what the rub is. Just report town, town's not trying to spend your money, tell you how to spend it, just asking for reporting purposes. And it is public information anyway, so again, I don't understand the road. Maybe you can clarify the point. I don't understand.
Jerry, would you like to respond to that one?
That's a different topic from the question I had.
Yep, it was.
It was. I'm not-
Yep. Then we'll get to the capital definition.
Okay, can you restate the question in one second?
What's the rub?
What's the rub? Why don't you want to provide the treasurer with reporting that is necessary for the audit? We're not trying, the town is not trying to tell you how to spend your money or how you allocate the money or anything else. Just report it so that auditing can be done according to state and town statutes.
There's the rub. So, it's an annual report. The auditor does an annual report after the fiscal year closes. So, there's no need to make monthly reports. There's no need to report to the town treasurer on a monthly basis. That's the rub. The rub is, it's not the point, as we just heard from Attorney Moody, by state law, as to how often financial reports need to be given by any entity to the town treasurer in that regard. So my understanding is reconciliation of accounts and whatnot with the auditor happens on an annual basis. And therefore, that's the rub, right? Why we're being asked at the Board of Education to provide monthly reports when those aren't really necessary. And that's according to our auditor, that it's not really necessary.
Okay, that completes the round of questions. At this point.
No, I didn't look this.
I'm sorry.
So, I'm gonna go to Attorney Mooney's question. And I'm gonna ask the Board of Education members, how the Board of Selection has interfered in any of your functions.
Specifically, the Board of Select,
Yes,
not the town.
well, the Board of Finance has its role. And we can sit there and say it together, because I'll go with both our boards, and it's not us against you, but I would ask the board of selectmen, what have we done? Or how have we tried to interfere in the application of your role and your responsibility?
We were not able to get a permit to pave our upper parking lot over the summer. And therefore, it is still sitting unpaved and dangerous for people to walk on and be on. I think that is interference.
You believe that to be interference?
I do, because we were told about 4 different reasons for why we were not able to have that permit. Before we finally came to an agreement that we would give the money to the town and the town would get it. And by that point, it was too late to get it.
Okay, that's a capital improvement, and we're gonna get.
It is.
I understand. I am asking a different question. Operationally, are we impacting how you do your job? Are we telling you how we want you to spend your money? That you're educating kids, you guys do a great job educating children in this town. No one on this board or that board would sit there and deny. The Board of Education has done a phenomenal job. So I'm asking you a very specific question. Have we ever interfered in the way that you guys are performing your role as Board of Education? That is, okay, and then I'll go in, and then we have to disagree, and we have to get capital improvements, because that is incorrect. Attorney Mooney's already addressed it. We have to work together on both
We
sides.
do need to review.
Correct.
And the disrespect that was given to the Board of Education, first with the community center, and then with the meeting, are the issues, yeah. Respectfully, I mean, you know, when what I understand happened in meetings that was supposed to be collaborative to get to an understanding of what was gonna happen with the community center was not respectful, was not cordial. And that's where all of this is emanating from, I would say. So now we come to a second issue, which is a safety issue for the school. And again, we're supposed to collaborate if it's a capital improvement. All we needed was a permit, and we could have had this done in the summer. And now it is 4 months later, we're getting in fall where, even according to Eric, we may not be able to get the crack sealing done if the contractor doesn't come through that you approved of, that you have a contract of. And we're up against a safety concern at our own property.
Okay, so your disrespect and the fact that we did not acquiesce to the parking, because you never asked us about doing it, correct? So we're gonna go on to capital improvement. So I just wanted to understand from Attorney Mooney's perspective, have we interfered in your operation? The answer is really no on an operational standpoint.
No on an operational
No on an operational standpoint.
Except for
Disrespect, I'll let you go there. And the fact that we didn't acquiesce to the way that you wanted to do a capital improvement project.
I think your terminology there really gets at it, Jeff.
Yeah.
You're talking about acquiescing.
Yeah.
Okay, how about agreeing? How about collaborating?
How about
So-
we didn't?
No, you didn't.
I think we're starting to.
Okay.
Yes, I understand the issue.
The final thing is financial report. So you about half an hour, 45 minutes ago, talked about how we don't provide you with the documentation. And that's obviously a rub. We have provided the required documentation. And it is not the Board of Education that's not living up to what we're supposed to do for the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, at this point, next item on the agenda is defining a capital improvement. And I thought that might be something that the finance committee would take the lead on getting the discussion started.
I don't know if someone else wants to talk about it, but we did have a meeting where it was discussed that, it has come up that there are some improvements that want to be made, and I think there was a discussion, it started with, you know, money that the Board of Ed might have left over at the end of the year. And we started talking about, maybe it would be time to, start a capital improvement account for that. So that instead of maybe spending unused money at the end of the year going forward for supplies, because there's been meetings where things have been talked about. Could they, and I wish I remember the genesis of it, I apologize, but could they, maybe put that money into a capital improvement account? I think we were all in agreement for it, like Jeff McGuire has said time and time again. Anytime that there's been something that's been asked, we all are in favor of whatever we can do to benefit, the school system and the children and education, so. Working in the school system itself, the capital improvement, list. That's provided every year, and then money is put towards that. So capital improvement, I believe, are things that are, big items. I probably should defer to you. They were in ways,
we have it, it's like for policy. We're gonna carve out of it for the purpose of saying, what do we think is a capital improvement? I can tell you how to define financial plans is policy for the town, right? And that is capital purchases for equipment and projects, the estimated cost of 15K or more. And annual maintenance or leasing costs of 5,000. So there's your big, right? And I was trying to put a number on what's a big project, what is small and steady, okay? And really what it boils down to is the operating expense, you know, you're paying salary, that's really not that, right? But if you're building something, if you're making perhaps a substantial maintenance project or something that's gonna involve again a significant expense, that seems like a capital improvement. The town has, of course, the board of the CIP board, where we go through what each town department, and not BOE, but each other town department thinks they need for equipment in the next 5-10 years. What does the fire department need for fire trucks? What does the town need for its trucks, mowers, etc.? And those are the things going through the committee and it's capital plan for each group. So you know the town public works department has their capital plan. And again, it's all about large scale purchases, equipment and O&M, I guess, we put that in too, because obviously anything you're gonna do that's gonna throw off that kind of requirement of continued expenditure, that's kind of capital as well. But obviously, there are things that are not capital, like paying your employees, things like that. So construction line is the short version, but we just try to define it as a large, which was going to be there more. You can go with that, you can say, oh, it should be 10, 20, but you gotta pick a number. This is again, this is a past policy, but it was specifically part of the DOE from it. So this is for the town.
Yes, sir.
So in part, it's defined by the annual audit, and the annual audit defines what a capital asset is of the town and what things are capitalized and how. That comes from the auditor relies on the Board of Finance's decision and determination of what that is. The Board of Finance has put together two policies. One is the purchasing policy, the other is the capital asset policy. So if you're going to use a common definition of what a capital asset is, ultimately it has to flow back to the audit. So you should probably use what's defined by the Board of Finance for that purpose.
Common sense tells you that a capital asset is a building, a parking lot, anything that is a structural issue related to the town. And common sense tells you if the Board of Education wants to do maintenance on its parking lot, to stay treatment, the town is not going to tell you you can or cannot do that because it's within your purview. It's on the body of property that you control. But if you're going to do something such as a roof that we did 6 years ago, right? That's a town project. That's a project that goes through capital improvements. And I'll ask the Board of Education because Shannon got me upset about this. Shannon, you're the member of the Board of Education and capital improvements. Why is that parking lot not ever brought to CIP?
The CIP doesn't have any oversight over.
Oh God, that is the lack of common sense and respect that is being shown to the rest of the community. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, this is, we're taking to understand,
Yeah.
and this is the rub. I was a little surprised and I myself.
I apologize, but I'm just saying, common sense should be the appropriate level that we as a group all use If you're doing something that is $120,000, I don't care, it should be $20,000, but if you're doing something to a physical asset, control, we as a board or board finance cannot go and tell you, we're gonna close your parking lot tomorrow, because you control the property. It's what,
That's right here.
it's what attorney is referencing.
Right here. We control the property.
I understand, but when you don't count, yeah.
One at a time.
So I can't sit there and go, I have to go and we have to pay that parking lot and shut it down to the detriment of the children, because in the end, I am telling you, the only group that will suffer and all of this nonsense will be the children. So in a classical standpoint, you need to work with the community and the people that have the experience of doing the project. And we own that parking lot in the end. You manage.
So. I disagree.
So we want the moderator.
I'm going to Jerry, back before the school year started, I was dabbling in how we might be able to get the parking lot going. And you and I and Eric had a conversation, and you thought that Eric was quite the asset in helping you understand what was needed to get the parking lot done. I thought that was a great example of collaboration that we always probably started earlier. Because I understood it, down thought they were gonna have to pay for the parking lot paving at some point. And, so it was really different all the way around, but I thought that was an example of how if we had been collaborating, we could do much better.
I think, Chad, from what I'm hearing and seeing tonight, and the interactions that are going across the room, I'm looking at everything, and I'm thinking that there's certain things we need to put in place or to agree on. That up to this point have been just willy-nilly out there. When we define a capital improvement, that's what the parameters there. When we talk about paying for the project, that needs parameters. We need a process. Even if that process is a Jeff required. Hey, Jeff, I want you to think about this. Come on, we take a look at this. The seating thing doesn't look too good. It's all brought out. The service man came today and he said it's probably not going to last more than 5 years. And to replace it is $20,000. Jeff comes over and takes a look at it. Jeff, you know anybody who can help us take care of this? This is what price I got. Obviously, this needs to be done. It's an expensive project. We don't have that money in our little piggy bank. So that's the kind of thing we need to be able to get going, I think. And if nothing else comes out of this meeting, and it's that, I think it shows where we agree on things and what we can do to contribute to make this more of a positive experience for the volunteers who are sitting around the table. I mean,
But I think what you're talking about is the capital improvement plan for the Board of Education.
The one that needs to exist.
Yes. Yep.
Well, we have another percentage.
It's like, why?
It's really easy to say.
But we're still not.
Okay, that's what.
Okay, Caitlin?
So my question is, because we keep talking about like the roof, the building, the parking lot, is a capital improvement project for the school defined as something that you physically see from the outside of the building? Does that have bearing on the potential?
No, I would say, I know, for instance, when I was telling you, you guys have public zero, or as more than road. All right, I would call that a capital project. I think it's a significant expense and it involves, physical materials, and it's gonna be a big job. That strikes me as capital.
You need a new boiler, new air conditioning.
Right, that's all it's.
It's not functional, it's not surprise,
There's
We did done this, that's why I'm asking this question, because we had flooring redone this summer. Which was necessary, but like where, I guess I don't understand, like, we can define it by a price amount, or we can define it by a type of project, but. How do you make that definition, because I don't think it's the same time.
And that's a little bit detailed, and I think we could work outside, we're starting to get, I think. The Board of Education is starting to get the idea that we need capital improvement plan, it's got all these things. It's got a column next to it that says, where are we gonna get the funding? You know, it could be the town, it could be from the Board of Ed budget, it could be grant, you know, you name it. But that's one of the things that outside of this meeting, we need to get together and ask about.
Well, I think first we need to understand what is a capital improvement, which is what we're trying to.
Okay,
I would say, take a look at that, the way we can find it here, and then if we disagree, let's talk about it.
And that's a discussion between Board of Finance and Board of Education.
Sure.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Anyone has.
I think it's important not to get too hung up on definitions. I think that the most important thing is to look at your appropriation process. Because the statute governing the Board of Ed says the board has care, maintenance, and operation of building. So what is or is not maintenance of operations? I think that it's more important to look at what you ask for from the town, your itemized budget estimate, and if the town appropriates those funds, then you have, I think, broad discretion to go ahead and use those funds for the purposes, including maintaining your buildings. But there are circumstances, and I have to argue with this. That was an interesting verb that that may be a good example of where you have to go outside the normal appropriation process and say, we have a capital need, we need to do something with our plumbing, and you go to the town and you ask for an appropriation. That would be how it would normally be handled. But I really hope that we can, or you all can, not focus too much on definitions, but rather on functions. And if through the appropriation process, you get funds to do your work, I really don't know that it's all that important whether it's called a capital or not capital. It's an operational issue for you, and you do have the authority to maintain your facilities. But there are going to be, if I'm correctly understanding, there is not currently a capital fund for the Board of Ed.
Right.
And, you know, you have to make your own decisions. But that's, again, related to the appropriation process. That's a fund that you would not have unilateral control over. That was the New Haven case, where there's a operational fund and appropriations made, and there's a capital fund. And that is where you're married and you're gonna have to work together.
So who would have control over that? Joint control?
Well,
that's
in the
the
first,
next question.
I
I wanted to wrap up the
Moderator?
Yeah.
Moderator?
Hades.
I just want to mention one thing. I think you all remember the bleachers, one of the bleachers, the cracking bleachers that we have in the gym, correct? And that was set to CIP, right? Set to the Board of Finance. It was put in the budget last year.
No,
It was not.
It came out of the recognition, so we laughed on the spot because it was a safety issue. So you did it. Just did it, safety for the children.
it actually was not through the Board of Ed, we asked for it, we were not given it, but when the rec commission asked for it, it was appropriated to the rec commission. It's in the school, so we had to coordinate with Kelly and the rec commission, but the appropriation was given to the rec commission.
It's collaboration between all boards and groups, and it got done. It definitely got done, right?
Between the rec commission and the school, it's in the process of getting done.
Yeah, it's getting done.
And to me, that's showing the need for collaboration, not the need for independence.
If I can, sorry, I came in a little bit late, but something in planning and capital improvement, I think one thing we hear about other communities, or behavior and water communities, like Waterbury Public Schools, they have the ability to employ people within the Board of Education who have background in maintenance and what that. We are a much smaller school, and much smaller district. I think we need to find a way that's collaborative to utilize the skill set that we have in departments like Public Works, and that the town has. I've been talking about paving parking lot. Our single employee we didn't hire to know how to pay parking. We don't have anyone in our realm to do that. So internally, I don't know if this is a policy that should be created internally to the board. That I do think that we should have. I understand the attorney's thoughts on not over defining, but I do think we should have a clear cut process that says these triggers send us to CIP. So that there's not any question with this. And I understand common sense, but coming from the military, I like the idea that everything, it doesn't matter who's sitting in these seats, everything's defined with a defined process. We can run into these in the future. So I do think we should define what capital improvement, whether it is specifically for the Board of Ed, what would trigger that, and understand that the reason we're doing this isn't about where the money comes from, because it's all the same pot of money. It's all coming from all of us as taxpayers. And it's all going to our kids in the school and we have, but we want to make sure that we're involving people who have the expertise in these areas, so that when we do projects, especially when we spend $120,000, that we're making sure we don't have to do it again 5 or 10 rows. We did go and ask people who knew whether or not this was the right thing to do. So I do want to define that, and I don't know whether that's something that's a joint policy or something that would be an internal Board of Ed policy. My thoughts.
Any other comments on the definition? I know we don't have the precise definition, but it's certainly less fuzzy in my mind than it was before. $15,000 we can go. So at this point, I'd like to move on to the Andover Elementary School Capital Improvement Account. And
I spoke to that earlier. I was leading into the account. You should have led. I did that. Do you want to go ahead? Yeah.
I'll just get my understanding, I'll speak with the entire effect. My understanding of the idea of it. Number one, the school doesn't, and that's probably necessary. Let's step. It would be much better, I think a lot of people agree with this, if this school had its capital improvement plan and a specific dedicated account. Then the question becomes, how do you live like this? Right? And one of the ideas that came from the school was, well, sometimes we have some money in our operating budget at the end of the year. And right now, if we have a capital fund, we basically have two options. We can kind of spend it down on stuff we need, but, or we go and we ask for it to do 2% on that, which is tax, or we hand it back to town. And the incentives here are not great. So, what if we could come to the Board of Finance and say, we'd like to load some money, capital fund. Board of Finance loves that idea. That's great. We absolutely want this fund and we want to put money into it. My thought would be, that's not the only way funds should be put into that. Right? That's a way. And then the other way to do it is the budget process, and the town agrees for a budgeting process to fund something. I don't expect the school to be able to put enough money away that way to properly fill out a capital account, right? That's a way for them to load some money in, but the lion's share of it is probably ultimately going to be through the channel and the budgeting process. Then the question becomes, how do we take it out? How do we authorize expenditure? And the idea that we talked about was between the Board of Ed and Finance, that is the determination made. Board of Ed would come to us and say, okay, $50,000 in the account, we have a project that's going to cost us $45,000, Board of Finance, you will approve that. We say yes, and it happens. That was the original idea. That I understand.
Yeah.
And that line was created, right?
Yeah, no.
This year, that was created. Yes.
what,
The account, as I understand, it was sort of a pre-existing account. I got used to separating the one.
It would be existing account for like, what's that?
That
And it's a pre-existing account on the town side, which was left over, about $80,000 from the previous.
Yeah.
And this is to everyone's point too. Why does that even matter if it's money that's going, that I understand and we can fix that. But it's a good thing that there is an account that exists and we can transfer that into the other. It's all gonna go into a pot of money for a capital improvement for the Board of Ed, hopefully. I so agree with you as far as having experts. I mean, that if you're gonna spend $120,000 on a roof, in our school, we're building classrooms, we never have enough room. We want that permanent, we want electrical right, we want all the great lines looking at it. So if you're spending that much money, you have to get town permits, you have to. You know, that's where the hand in hand comes to the town. It's so hard for me, so I'm glad that I'm able to vocalize this part. It's just all good. Like, this is great. We're trying to create a capital account that hopefully can be funded through some budget money as one of these things. You know, we do that for trees, we do it for roads. Now we can put a little pot when we're deciding, you know, for the capital improvement account for the Board of Ed, and then, you know, so. I just like to hopefully get to the good stuff, because it's all positive things. I'm more about that than I'm negative.
One more point, I just on the expertise issue. I won't mess about one of these experts, but on TIP, we do have some people who have this sort of knowledge, right? I'm usually the guy who's just there and says, yeah, sounds good. But there are people who do have more knowledge on that committee, and it can help the committee committee and say, well, that's how we're gonna deal with it yet, we have this problem. Right, we know it's gonna happen to us, so let's talk about it.
When you were talking about ways to fund the account, I was surprised that you didn't mention grants. Would that be a possibility to fund the capital improvement?
That's a good point. I'm not a wizard when it comes to grants, but that seems reasonable, yeah.
I know there's a lot of grants.
There's a lot of groups, kind of matching grants, to apply for that could be, but probably no.
Grants are usually set up in their own account, right? They're gonna have to report back to the state.
That's-
Whatever they want, so it's still a good thing. I mean, so.
It's not over to concern, I think you work hard to get grants, one, the school.
So for example, with the grants that the school gets, we've got an incredible superintendent who's gotten an incredible amount of money for grants. But when the school gets,
Use it on.
no, yeah, when the school gets grant money, it's reimbursed. We have to provide documentation and meet all the requirements of the grant before we get any money. When the town applies for grant money, it's given the money. And then it has to, you know, show how it used it. And often when the town gets money, there is, the town has to put money in, right? The town has to put money in and have skin in the game. So it's a very different operation.
Okay, yeah, and I was reluctant to even ask the question about that.
It's the
Because I
town,
wanted to stay here.
right, the town.
The school are not grant,
Yeah.
and they want to spend the money.
And just so everyone's aware, right, because in terms of discussing the parking lot, which I get that there's strong feelings on both sides for everyone, but everyone should be aware that the only reason we had the money in our budget left over to spend on the parking lot is because Valerie is awesome at getting grants. That's why that money is there, because she does such a good job of getting those grants for our kids for educational expenses.
And I think we should have a place for fashion.
I thought you did was one of the things.
Or we can do what we do for ramp. If that's what the town wants to do, which is we vote every year on putting money to pay for the Rams recommended capital budget and their operation budget. We only have one. And so that's where the water's getting money. It's all in the same bucket.
The government required, does that sound like reasonable approach?
No,
Then. I'm interested in why.
you asked me if it was reasonable, and I said, no. If the goal is that we're collaborative, like Attorney Mooney said, that would be collaborative. If the issue, what Shannon and Jared were recommending was, if we go out and get grants, and let's talk about this in a realistic sense. You went out and got grants and offset your budget. so that you had this big pot of money that is available to do capital improvements within the school. You already know it's going to be flooring, right? You wanted to spend $128,000 on a parking lot. So what you're asking, Shannon, is that you have control of that money. The Board of Ed, in its sole entirety, makes all the decisions. Everything that we've talked about being collaborative was right out the window.
But it's within our operational budget.
Certainly,
Yeah, it is.
It's in your operational fund. If you spend it on operation, if you don't window paying for repair and maintenance, that's fine. You're the first from $128,000.
So.
I agree.
Let's let the moderator talk.
The, I heard during Mooney say that we had to be married on the capital improvement.
But, okay,
Well,
But-
I wanted to get the answer.
oh, okay.
Because I heard right. Yes. So we do have to be working together on the capital improvement.
Okay. But the reason, as Caitlin just said, that we had the money at the end of the year was money in our operational account. And the only reason we had the money was because we have an incredible superintendent who gets grant money. So the money was not used for operation. And the Board of Education, who oversees the maintenance and let's see how we define it. The care and maintenance of the property is during the week, has broad discretion as to how to maintain our property. So there's the rub. Is it a capital improvement? Is it maintaining a parking lot? How does that get defined? And here's where the problem arose. And that is that we had money in our operational budget that had already been given by the town, so to speak, pursuant to their okaying our budget. And we could have used it for anything. What we decided that we wanted to use it for was paving the parking lot because that was really necessary and a safety issue. So if the preference is, this is what's going to force me in. If the preference is that we now spend it on whatever, so that we can call it operational or whatever, and we avoid going under CIP, that's what's going to happen. And that's not in the best interest of the kids or the school or the town.
Shannon.
And that's what we gotta get a good definition.
I want to let Joanne speak.
So the whole point of, again, staying positive with this was, we understood that. We're at the Board of Ed Finance meeting. And so we decided to take baby steps to get to where you want to go. In any town and Board of Education, or even at Raymond, because we look at them here and we see that huge number, you know, and different things like that, but they have their wish list, so to speak, which is their capital improvement plan. And then they give you the dollar signs for what each thing will cost. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think in our baby step approach, we're not trying to solve the world issues right now. We're trying to make this happen and have this fund that we created, the Board of Selectmen verified, and you know, we got it into existence. Maybe it wasn't the exact fund. I understand maybe on the accounting side, these digits need to be entered into the computer to make it an account. I understand where that is setting, but it's still positive because it's money more than that.
Sure, so
So we will clean that up. We created this account.
it wasn't created, that's the problem.
Well, like I said, in theory.
So Joanne, we asked, we approved that.
Hold on. Why can't
And I just want to wrap up, so in baby steps, we are trying to do that.
Right.
I don't know if it's gonna get voted on, I don't think we're 3,000 people in the town. We don't need to vote on a capital, but hopefully we can collaborate.
We
And
greatly,
follow the rules.
we greatly appreciate the board finance.
You guys been patiently waiting here.
The Board of Selectmen worked when, and I'll go through the steps. The Board of Education applied for a permit on parking for $128,000. The Board of Education applied for that permit with the funding that they got, however they got, because we're not involved. You are missing the point that the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance both agreed to allow the $128,000 to be spent on that parking lot. We created the account, we voted, it's in our minutes. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Shannon,
We
we voted, it was 5-0 or 4-0, we voted, they voted, we said, let's use the $128,000 for the parking. The only caveats that we requested was that the Department of Public Works and the town administrator create specifications for the job so that it was done correctly. That's what we asked for, that's all we asked for, and we did what you asked. You as a board, so you understand, I got here and said, hey, we have $128,000 left over because our superintendent has done a great job with grants. I applaud you, that is incredible work. But you've got to work together to sit there and get the project done correctly. And that's what you and your board have failed to do when you went around the process to sit there and make that permit.
Okay, may I respond, my dear? Or did it read?
Yeah.
So, here's what happened.
Yeah.
We, Board of Education, decided how to use our money. We then tried to coordinate with Constantine to get the payment done. We didn't go to the town. Our paper went to the town. Was told, it's a wetlands issue. It's a planning and zoning issue. Then came in with at least another 5 requirements of our paper. That now seemingly have gone by the wayside and can actually be done for our public works. Fantastic. Where was the collaboration with regard to working with our paper to give a permit and to tell us what public works could do? Because I'll tell you, if I was Constantine and I was told that another supervisor had to be paid for to supervise my work, I wouldn't be paid, and that's what happened. Joanne, we would love a capital improvement fund to be created. What wasn't created is a capital improvement fund, a new account that the Board of Finance and the Board of Education will collaborate about, which is what we do with the 2% non-lapsing income. The account that everybody talks about is an existing account from more than a decade ago. And it is on the general ledger of the town, which is overseen by the town. Not appropriate for the Board of Education's funds unless we have an agreement otherwise to be overseen by the town. We're fine. 2% non-lapsing account. That is defined by state law. We need your permission to put our funds that remain at the end into a 2% non-lapsing account. I'm not gonna speak for the board, for myself, I would be absolutely happy to do that with the capital improvement account. Set it up, let's put the money into it, let's establish a new account that the Board of Finance has oversight over. And if we need to ask that the Board of Finance agree before we spend money on the capital project and access that account, so be it.
But I mean, I just want us all together. I mean, he's an accounting expert. You know, I work on the Board of Finance and I'm very good at that. You know what I mean? So again, it's all to me. I still feel that like control thing. I feel like we're all, and I'm not trying to direct this to you when we're having a conversation. I just feel like it's a positive thing. We just need to set up some parameters. If it's a huge thing, of course the town are gonna be involved with permits and, you know, making sure things are done right. I'm not seeing where you think anyone is gonna say no, like in the control thing. Well, again, well, here's.
We said, maybe my money.
Everything everyone said tonight is really how sensitive for the 17 years I've been here and watched it and been involved, and, you know, I want to just move forward. Like, okay, so if there was maybe, you know, some bad feelings or this and that, let's start fresh. You know, I know that the feelings are gonna be there, but we really want to be positive moving forward. And establishing the account, setting the guidelines. Of course, if it's a huge project like roofing, getting experts, you know, things of that nature.
But the money, at least in my opinion, the money That was cleared up. It's been cleared up. The permission to do probably is not been cleared up yet.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing. We're no longer talking about money. And Eric had his hand up, and I hope we're gonna talk about all the good things that we were able to try and do so that we didn't end up. My example is, how many times have you seen a road repaved? And then the next thing that happens is somebody's out there cutting it up so they can work on a pipe. I think Eric was trying to avoid that. And so Eric, say, you got the floor.
Okay, so, generally speaking, in the county of Andover, the projects, paving projects are controlled by the public works supervisor. Some input by me, but primarily him. We usually utilize our county engineer when we're writing specs for any paving job. And it depends on what the anticipated traffic is and what the material of the paving is. So when we found out that the school had intended to pave it, and it sounded like the board of selectmen was going to agree to that. The first thing we did as public works is we got the public works supervisor and the town engineer within about 5 days of us knowing that this was happening to come back with a set of specifications for doing the job correctly that addressed 3 things primarily. The first thing was there's drainage under the parking lot. And one of the dumbest things you can do is repave something before you make sure the drainage is fine. So, and as you know, as you had asked us to do it, Public Works had repaired sinkholes there fairly recently. So you should have had an inkling that your drainage was messed up to begin with. So we did 2 things. We looked at the drainage. We dug a hole in the, and did what's called a SIP test, which is basically you dig out the subbase and then you send it off to Nathan Jacobson's testing lab and you get a material sample back for what's under the parking lot. We did that in 2 areas, so we had representative samples, and based on that, the town engineer and public works director gave a set of specifications for how to do that correctly. You talked about oversight of the contractor. You're right, the town, when we send out a project to a contractor that's especially a reclaim and repave, we assume that we are always going to test. We're going to test for proper compaction before we pave, and we are going to test that they properly compact the asphalt while we do it. And we accept the fact that we're going to pay additional money to do that, because that is our assurance that the job is correct. Because if it's compacted properly, you put down the right amount of asphalt of the right type and the right depth, you know, you're gonna end up with a good result, and you're gonna sit there for the next 25 years with a decent parking area. And no paving company is going to volunteer to do that. That is something that you're going to have to tell a paving company that they're going to have to do it. And they'll all give you 50 reasons why you shouldn't do it. But, you know, and Constantine is a good paving company. I mean, so that at least gave us some assurance the job would probably be done correctly. And the second thing that we asked is we asked that you change the type of curbing for the job to something called Cape Cod curbing. If you look in your lower lot, you can see all the spots where the curbing is wrecked by the town plows. Okay, because snow gets above the curb, you can't see it, you hit it with the plow, you tear it out. Cape Cod curbing, very shallow curbing, doesn't get torn out, you can run it over with the plow. You would have done it without doing Cape Cod curbing, and you would end up doing curbing repairs, you know, down the road. So the town wants to ensure that both you and us get a quality product. And the town plows your lots, we salt your lots, we deal with the drainage of your lots, and we do some repair work of your lots. So it's not like we don't have vested interest in the lot. And all of your drainage comes through the town property and exits out back there. So the last thing we insisted was that the contractor produce what's called an ENS, the erosion and sedimentation plan. So that we know we're not gonna dump a bunch of sand in our drainage structures, which is gonna cause you problems in your lower lot and us eventually below. So I know you wanna put nefarious purposes on the town, but that's not the case. It was not likely. And that's it.
Thank you, Mayor. This one,
Hi, I think years ago, we used to get like a 5-year improvement plan or something down the road from the board of Ed. If we had something like this, it would give us a heads up. And we would come to you and say, or Eric would come and say, okay, if you're gonna do this, these are the steps. So if we had a heads up, I don't think we dismissed it.
any,
If I could,
okay, Valerie.
and I just jotted down notes, I was gonna make a public speech, and I said, well, Eric is probably the one. Hi, I was jotting down notes, if there was a couple of things I just figured I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to say to all three of you. So first I want to tell you this guy, Nick, is wonderful, so sorry I haven't been able to talk, he really does do a great presentation, so, okay, so one of the things that I've been hearing a lot of is oversight versus accountability. The attorney really said that earlier, and I think that that is for me, as a person who oversees the school itself, that's huge. And even when we're talking about the parking lot, I think that is where there's the breakdown, the biggest breakdown is, I watched the board of selectmen meeting from 2 nights ago. And there was, you know, a lot of awkward changing of decisions and things. So I think that oversight instead of help and accountability, I get the accountability, yeah, I want to make sure it's done right. But I think it's taken as oversight because of the way it's presented. So I think that would work, absolutely work on, and, you know, Tara and I both would probably be people that would be the ones talking, and walking people through and touring them when we have capital projects. So I think that is, if there's that shift, as Attorney Lee said, from, you know, considering, is this accountability or is this oversight? And maybe that would help. Bill, I will speak for Sherry because I see she's off here. The one thing she did want to make sure, and you're the one that brought it up, was, and this goes back to an oversight versus accountability. You asked a very valid question. You said, what's the rub? And for Terry, the rub was that, could you please revisit that proposed policy and look at it from a lens of, is this oversight or is this accountability? One of the things in there that Robert has on there is that after June 1st, the school would have to get approval for expenditures from the town treasurer. And that isn't the law of our operational budget. We can control the expenditures the board of ed does until the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. And so for her, and she and I spoke, that was the rub. So that's not accountability, that's oversight. Because I'm the one that approves Taylor's expenditures, I'm the one that approves, and then if it's anything out of the budget, it's the board of ed. And so I just wanted you to know that was her role as our school finance person, and I'm on board with that, was having that expenditure have to go to the town treasurer, which goes against her job over there after June 1st, after July 1st, when you're in the next fiscal year, that's another story. The question about, I know Jack raised, Jack raised the question about the bleachers. And I want you to know part of that, you know, that came from me, part of that, because I've been here, this is my 4th year. And I have on multiple occasions, because probably the last thing I want to do is spend our children's operational budget on capital things if I don't have to. That's less than 200 minutes to get in the building. So she thought it was well, I'd like to be able to give her that stuff. When I have to spend it on capital stuff, I would love not to have to do that. However, I did go to the board of Selectmen with the generator issue, and it was denied. I went to the board of selectmen with the future issue and it was denied. So we do unfortunately have the history of being over capital projects, so Trent, to your point, hopefully it'll get better as the future comes. But that's where that problem is we've then had to kind of be independent and figure out for the past decade, how do we then get those things done? And we don't with whatever was excess in our operation budget. And that's why we always had to take care of that stuff on our own. So we didn't do it because we wanted to spend all the children's money on that. So those are just, I mean, I love those words, oversight versus accountability. And if we kind of look at everything from here moving forward, with that understanding that there's a little bit of scarring from past relationship and saying, is this oversight or is this true accountability? Is it accountability? It's not a problem. So thank you.
Two words that, as I was preparing for that, oversight wasn't one of them. It was economy, which the Board of Education wants, and transparency. Those were the two that I thought I did. I thought transparency is a good thing. We're all trying to be more transparent. So I think I can understand why everybody have a problem.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me know.
Any other comments on the capital improvement account? Sounds like we had there was something moving forward. I guess from what I read, I thought it was done. Maybe it's not done yet. Here.
Just as a clarification, the capital improvement account is established the day the Board of Finance approves it.
Okay.
I mean, that is their role. The money was transferred from the old account that was set up for the last Andover Elementary School expansion that has been sitting on the books for the last 15 or so years. It is unspendable because the expansion is complete and there was probably not a likelihood of another expansion. So the Board of Finance, with concurrence with the Board of Selectmen, agreed to set up the AES Capital Fund. And I have a little bit of concern with what they called it, because they called it the same name as CIP. So I think the treasurer has renamed it slightly, and the money came from that previous account. But that account is there, that money is spendable right now. If the Board of Finance wants $122,000 check to be deposited in that account, it will be. The reason I did not deposit it was once Constantine told me that they were unable to pay it this year, I thought the Board of Finance might want to reconsider the decision to put money in that account. But that money could go in Monday if you so chose at the board. I just don't want to make that decision for you, nor does the Board of Selectmen.
To go with what Eric said, I requested, or I told Eric, we were not depositing that account to the Board of Education weighed in, because it's not our money. It's the town's money, but it's under the control of the Board of Education. So I asked Eric not to deposit that money, the project wasn't going to get complete, so that you had the opportunity to go back and make a decision as to what you wanted.
I will not be, yeah.
Right? It's just not clear. I did not everybody else.
Yeah, may I ask a question of those of you who understand financial stuff much more than I? That account, if that check is put into that account, how does that reflect, or how does it look on us writing, like the Board of Education writing a budget for this coming year? Does it look like we have $122,000 in excess, so that we have to subtract that from our budget? Or is it sitting in the capital account and it stays there and it's not a factor on any budgetary stuff for this coming year? Because we're not spending it.
It would not be on your account. That money sits with the remainder. The town has about 6 or 7 capital accounts: bridges, culverts, road improvement fund, tree fund, all those things, buildings, fire department, public works equipment. All those are permanent multi-year funds that roll from year to year. Because they are all for purchases that we are probably not gonna come up with the money any single year to do. We're not gonna spend $1 million in taxation in 1 year for the fire department, therefore we fund a bunch of money in their equipment fund, pay for it when we have an expense.
And I'm asking this, because, not because I think anyone wants to do this, but say, not Eric, say a bad town administrator, right, who's working for our town, he said, look at all this here, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna put this instead.
They can't.
We're citing this for that.
That's a really good question, and straight out, if the board of selectmen and board of finance, absent any policy that was in place, would have the ability to transfer that money to some other capital fund.
Yeah,
So that is a legitimate.
so I think that's the fear, like, I'm talking about fear from the board of ed side, that's the fear there's me. Not that we think any of you would do that, but you could. If you wanted to.
Part of the reason why I suggested
Having a.
putting a policy in place, which dictates what that money can be, because once that policy is established, that defines how that money is handled.
I don't see that you couldn't include in this policy line that says, you know, subject to request by board of ed, this money. Or something along the lines of that enjoins the board of finance from our usual powers of transferring any fund to any other fund.
But there would, but if money were to be transferred, meaning there would be, if there would be a request, would it just?
Well, the way it works right now, board of finance, too broad, taking one something and put it in another.
I don't speak in detail of that tonight. What I would like to have.
Be in a meeting, be in a public forum.
You could be,
Yeah.
working, I don't know, because of the policy now, but there's probably different groups that would like to be working on that thing to make it come out right. So that everybody saw eye to eye, as opposed to get one person's viewpoint, and then that gets other people upset because they didn't get a chance to provide input.
Right.
On the creation of that.
Can I make one further point? So we're talking about two potential funds, or two funds. One is for 2% non-elected. The board of finance can put up 2% of your annual appropriation in that fund. That is completely under your control, only you can decide how to fund it. If you decide to do a capital project with it, you still have to share that responsibility with the town, but you control that funding, lock, stock, and barrel. The town has no input, treasurer has no input, I have no input, board of finance, nor board of selectmen. If it is in the other fund, then that is ultimately under the purview of the board of finance, as is every capital fund. And the board of finance at times has rated one capital fund to supplement another, because we had a legitimate expense, we need to make that work.
Jeff?
Just that, I keep going back to one thing.
Yes.
There was a library fund in this town for about 20 years with $168,000 left in it. I think it's just that moved.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's not like this town moves at a rapid speed and we're gonna raise $128,000. And even though it's here, because
No one's trying to say that, but it's. Say like there are certain members of our board that have fear that will happen because we don't have good relationship and we're trying to do that. So we need to have policy in place so that can't occur, so that people feel more.
but the point really is that we're not here. The board of selectmen is this direction, is what. We're not here to sit there and raise money that would be for the benefit of the children. And we can put the policy in place. We'll put the policy in place, but I am telling you, this town moves at glacial speed. All right, and I'm a person like that, we move at glacial speed, and why? Because we as taxpayers are responsible for every dollar that goes into the community. I don't care if it's for education or if it's for public work. I mean, come on, we're all volunteers. This board of selectmen has control of about $2.5 million. Your board over there, for the benefit of the children, has a budget of $4 million. God bless you, you're doing a phenomenal job, but please understand, we're not adversarial. We should never be considered adversarial. It is heartening to me to come to these meetings and sit there and think that we can't work together. I'm just telling you.
Agreed, yeah, absolutely.
I think that's for takeaway, the word, maybe take this draft, take a draft policy that everyone done before this, screw around with it. Have your meeting, talk about it, tell us where the things that you're not sure about are, red line, whatever you want to do. Come back to us with it, and let's talk about it at a more question. Because I don't think that's an insurmountable issue of, okay, Board of Finance, we don't want you to have carte blanche to move on.
And as a board, you guys, Eric emailed that policy, we all got it, and no one did anything with
Right,
it.
we need to.
So,
Right, if that's what gives you guys the comfort to me, let's do it. But like, we recommendations from you, I said, what would give you that comfort?
It's pretty different. Robert, which policy you're talking about? So about that too.
Okay,
So the not to tax.
Hold it. Just don't worry.
but he wrote them as a dual policy,
Right, okay.
but, which I think would.
Right, so the reason why I did that as a dual policy, and I didn't create this out of thin air. I asked CPM to start to give me copies from a half dozen other towns. I took the town most similar to Hanover. The policy already included both funds, they changed the name to Hanover. Whacked a few other things out that weren't relevant to us, and said no. Right, so,
Which you wrote in your email.
right.
Understand.
And yes, both boards should sit down and hash out the details of this and sign it.
Yeah, so may I make a motion? So I wrote, we wrote in this number, right, possible action for a reason, because I would like the one thing to come out of this meeting, which is to name a person from the Board of Finance and a person from the Board of Ed to draft this policy so that it can.
So if you be presented to both boards.
Yeah.
As a policy person on the board, I'm really happy to do that for the board of ed. I'm a lawyer and I'm the designated policy person for the board of ed. Okay, Robert. Let's do it.
You may have to ask me.
No,
So basically, you're withdrawing your motion, it's just gonna happen.
That sounds great.
Okay, so I think that is a great.
Can we get a time? We need a time.
I was looking at, I was gonna say.
Come on,
This is the collaboration that we've all been just.
Ours happened last night, Robert, so we're not for another month. Yours is coming up next week.
Sure. We did try to, if we can.
Let's do it before the next board of ed meeting, and then yours is back to our meetings, then if we approve it, then you can keep it if you have. November.
You guys work that out.
Yeah, looking solid.
We like, I think down to the city here, basically, like, well.
I'm sorry, because I don't want it offline, I want to know when it's gonna happen, policy.
Work out the details out of here, I know Shannon will not drop that, I don't think she will stop it. Yep, I'm confident that,
That's our problem, is that we don't, as a profess, our problem is that we don't fit things.
Yes, one day.
That's why I keep on.
I want to thank you for giving me more knowledge. Because I've been working with board of ed for 30 years, at the next month, plus 10 years as a board member myself. Tom was a young pup when I first met him back then. That's right. I love the idea of collaboration. That's what I do when I work with boards is try, if we have a common understanding of the problem is we figure out the solution that everybody can live with. Is when we have three different interpretations of what the problem is, we're never going to agree on a solution. So I give you credit. By the way, I've done facilitation like this for tri-board meetings where there's been community problems and you ever need help. and didn't have comfort with someone from Cade working with everybody, it's something we could possibly work with. Happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to get back to the possible action, to just see if there's anything else that we want to, I think that was probably the most important thing, is to get the board of ed, the board of finance, to work together to come up with something there. Any other actions, like follow-on meeting to this one, or
So initially, when I proposed having this meeting, we just wanted to start with baby steps. But I think it would be great to have something like this, perhaps quarterly. Just because it's a different environment than one of us inviting another board or representative from another board to one of our board meetings. So I guess I would want to know what other people's thoughts are on that. To have another meeting, perhaps like quarterly.
Paula, did you have any thoughts on that when, I know you were instrumental in setting this one up?
So, I think it was important tonight. I think we all were able to talk about our loves and our issues and hear it directly from people rather than assume. I think another meeting is important. The election's coming up. I hope that we're all back at the table, but that might change. So, maybe we'll have to wait and see and schedule something if we're doing it quarterly. But, next time around, I'm suggesting that, we get a little more input maybe from the agenda. I know we were, like Caitlin said, we were doing baby steps. I think we did well tonight. I thought it would go longer, honestly. I think we did well, keeping things in time, but, the three of us wanted input from our boards. We wanted to be honest and say, here's what's on the agenda, here's what's in the packet. So we want input from everybody. But that's all I have for that. But Caitlin, thank you. Joanne, thank you for everybody for coming. This is a great start.
I don't want to get ahead of us here. We've got some public folks that have sat through it all. And I would like to hear from them. I guess we'll start with Bob.
I'm gonna go up here. This way I can face it. So, I know about half the people in the room. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bob Hamburger. I've lived in town 35 years. I've previously served on Planning and Zoning Commission. In fact, I was chair just before Jed was. I think it's appropriate that we all give Jed a round of thanks for conducting us. I have to confess, I breathed a small sigh of relief when Jed got selected, because I knew that this could be a real hornet's nest, and he's done a good job of keeping you vipers all under control. So thanks, Jed. The subject of capital came up several times. I'm an electrical engineer. I've been practicing 40 years. I've worked on a lot of construction projects, a lot of manufacturing projects, multi-million-dollar equipment. I just wanted to introduce some of the concepts from my world when it comes to capital, because maybe these ideas can be useful moving forward, some of the terminology. And, when I work on something, it's always capital versus expenses or capital versus operation. And when it comes to the school, we're talking about computers and parking lots versus pencils and paper clips. Capital are usually uniquely budgeted outside of ongoing routine expenses. They have they have a tangible lifetime, okay? And for tax purposes in my world, these things are depreciated over their working lifetime. I don't know how applicable that is for a school. So repairs are usually expenses. They're predictable and routine. If you have to patch a roof, you patch a leak on the roof. If you have to go up there with a bucket of tar, that's an expense, okay? That's a predictable routine thing. If you have to retar the entire roof, that's capital. That's something that you have to foresee and predict. So you can see that there is a gray zone, where one might go into another. And again, in my world, the earlier you ask for capital, the easier it is to approve and to appropriate. And that goes into, somebody here mentioned a 5-year plan, long-term planning, okay? To the extent that that can be used, that's always a good thing. And, you know, I'm a little bothered by the upper parking lot because that didn't just happen overnight. So, you know, somewhere in the process, something broke down. Somebody hasn't been looking at it. We haven't been planning. I realize, Eric, there's a million things, you know, there's how many miles of road in this town that have to be repaved. So, you know, hopefully we don't run into a problem like that again. The other thing that I keep hearing with regard to the school, with the parking lot, and also I was on the commission that helped design the senior center. And there were questions that came up. I sat with Val a couple of times. These were engineering issues. And I would like to think that somewhere in the population of 200 parents or so of the students that are there, that there's got to be some engineer, a civil engineer or a road planner or a city planner or something that you can cajole to volunteer, because it seems like there are engineering issues that come up with regard to the school that could probably be handled on a volunteer basis. You know, again, little things before they get big. So that's what I had to say. Thanks.
Julia? I won't be talking, you can stand right there or sit right there. You have any comments for us?
I'm happy I came tonight. I think wow, but we got to the point where people are happier knowing that going forward things will change. And I was impressed with the comments from the people on the board of ed, from the board of selectmen and the board of finance. I think there were. It's just putting the attention and time into it to get it done. Obviously, somewhere along the way, the loss of the capital expenditure part in the board of ed budget must have happened. I mean, I'm sure they was here 40 years ago when I was young, and there were other boards there. That's something I remember happening in the past. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully not together. I'm glad to see that we're beginning to get more collaboration between the boards. Back when we were going through, I was on planning and zoning and we were looking at the approval for the community center, I saw a lack of collaboration there. We asked, the board of ed was asking for collaboration and it was refused. So I'm glad to see now that we're starting to get some collaboration, and I think it's face-to-face is better than text or email, because you can have a lot more communication face-to-face. So I think this is great. I'm glad to hear that you're talking about doing it for. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'll just echo what Ann said, there aren't experts on both sides. We may not have hired me for my dating skills, but, to Ann's point, when the senior center was being, brought up, and now it's being built now, that was really collaboration that we were looking for at the time, because we share borders out here and how it would affect the Taylor and the school and the kids. So, looking forward, you know, whether it is a capital project on the town side or a capital project on the school side, to be able to be thinking always about, hey, do our neighbors have anything to offer us? Because that does go 2 ways, and that can help. I can help you paving, but there's lots of other things we may be able to help with in terms of, you know, designing and doing those sorts of things if it's for the good of the whole town, especially if it affects locals.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't know that is happening. I think that it should be, or I've always thought that, especially the major boards should get together and not. I also think that we should come from coming in here, maybe instead of collaboration, that the agenda probably should be collaboration as well. And not one meeting. And then try to come in from one meeting, this is what we agree on. And then take it from there, okay, do not, and then possibly try to think of
what are the steps we can do rather than, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. Okay, so this is the issue. What are the steps we can take now?
Now, I do think that, you know, when the collaboration that you and both mentioned that there was probably an effort at collaboration. It might not have been exactly where we wanted it to be, but I think there was effort made to collaborate on both the agenda and the senior center. May have fallen short of the mark, that's why we're here talking, but we're learning, Paul.
So the agenda was worked on by Caitlin, Joanne, and myself, so it was collaborating. We had a member from each board talking, and we were emailing and texting and calling. So we, as far as the agenda and everything that we talked about tonight, from moderators and how we're gonna run it was not one-sided, it was two-sided.
Emily? I don't know who.
No, I don't have.
Okay.
Sure, it's gotta be Jen.
I think I'm done. Anything else you're gonna have into this? All in favor? Any opposed?
Yeah.